Hello and welcome to Royale Without Cheese, our bi-weekly podcast in which we discuss both the classic Indian known of heart and popular cinema from the then and now. We are your hosts, me, Miguel Aido, Leonardo Miranda,
Hello there.
and Tomás Ferreira.
Hey, hey, hey.
Today we talk about Ambulance, but before any do's, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, or simply give us a like. Ambulance is a 2022 American action film directed and co-produced by Michael Bay, being a remake of the 2005 Danish film Ambulancen. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as adoptive brothers who hijack an ambulance after robbing a bank, taking a paramedic and police officer hostage. Shot during the pandemic, its reception was polarizing, but critics lauded Bay's ever so bombastic direction of his action sequences. But coming around to the opinions that matter, amidst all the fresh Bayhem brought by the Bayman, what did Royale actually think of Ambulance? Fellas?
It's a solid action film.
Yes.
Not much.
I do agree with this
Complain
monologue
now, I
bit
complain
with the
now.
Bayhem. I think he does achieve some pretty cool shots.
Right. um, let's say this. Michael Bay is not a director I find very appealing. I think there are far more skillful action directors out there and action films of the dynamic, high-octane shots than this guy. That said, let me put this into context of the film that we have before us, Ambulance. The start of the film, and pretty much the first half of the film, bores me to death because his inadequacy to do calmer scenes, dramatic scenes that reveal the inner conflict and the motivation of the character in a contained, nuanced way is out of the boat, or should I say, out of the ambulance. It's dead on arrival. It's flatlining. He doesn't have it because the only knowledge he has of mise-en-scène is carried from his, technique on action films. He basically borrows what he knows of mise-en-scène from the action sequences into the drama scenes, and he doesn't know how to do anything else. He's not versatile that way. In fact, contained is not an adjective you can apply to this director because he's not contained. He's bombastic.
What moments of containment are there in the beginning? Because it starts off insane, yeah.
Exactly, that's my point.
No. It starts off with the drama of the surgery.
Exactly. The thing is, it is not contained. He can do it, but it's supposed to be at some level. The fact of the matter is that for me, it doesn't work. I mean, I'm laughing through and through at these scenes. That's how bizarrely
you're laughing at this poor woman who needs surgery.
Heartless man.
I'm laughing at his technique. I'm laughing at how obvious he is in his editing, at how his shots don't seem to match each other. Like his idea of filmmaking is to have handheld the fuck of everything, and then if you see some cool ass smoking shit, smoking hot or just smoking explosive, give me a 360, pan or like a sudden zoom or whatever. And we will find it out in the editing. It's literally we'll finding out in the editing because the biggest problem with
it's
me
beautiful.
Is that particularly in the dramatic scenes, there's no intention behind the shots. He doesn't. His idea of the mise-en-scène is let's make the shot look slick and cool, and that's about it. He doesn't concern himself with the needs of editing and how does this mesh together. There are shots that start out with this great swooping gesture of a movement because they are drawn, and on themselves they look cool. All right, you can craft that, but in connection to others, they don't make sense because when you create this big swooping movement with the drone coming in from a doorway, and I have this image of the robbers getting out of the bank, it doesn't result into anything. It's a movement that wants to result into something new and change the pacing of the scene. It's not changing. We go back to the same after that shot concludes itself, which is a big swooping shot, brings another kind of energy. We go back to the same kind of fast-paced cut based on handheld shots, pace that we had from before, and this happens constantly on the scenes. So when you have the dramatic scene contained at his home, talking with the hospital, trying to get surgery for his wife, when you have him meeting his brother who calls him on to the bank robbery thing, and then when they go to rob the bank and they're inside the bank, there's little altercations between them and the bank people. I feel a lot of this these problems. There's the difference between the quality of the shots. There's sometimes are freaking shaking all over the place, and sometimes are more contained. You feel there's a lack of intention behind them. You feel that he completely tries to find how to piece this stuff up in the editing, because he can't think them outside the quality of an action sequence that is bombastic. He can't bring himself to a different tone. Everything is shot in the same tone. He's not versatile as a filmmaker. He can't think these things straight. When he gets into the chase sequence, all right, I think he becomes more interesting. And they're developed in like episodes that are very interesting to watch. And if you have a swooping, strange camera shot with a drone there, I can accept it more, because we are constantly, there's movement imprinted onto that shot with these moving trucks and these moving cars and this high octane dialogue going on, with calmer scenes where people are just standing, and you suddenly have a building look, have a whole movement of a drone going up and down the building for no reason. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Or it doesn't warrant this kind of movement. There are just things, actions in these earlier moments in the movie that to me do not warrant this kind of camera movement or pacing. And then, of course, coming back to the opening sequence, him talking to them just on the level of the dialogues and how he edits and the cuts, and how he doesn't really address any subtlety, any nuance in his films, because he's not contained. He's precisely the opposite. That's what he likes. But that hinders the emotionality in the scenes when we're talking about calmer scenes. The phone with the hospital is like, this is about real life. This is about real human beings. Cut to baby face, feeling the screen. The shot of his baby, Dutch angle, close up, sun going up. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then the wife is right there in the next room, just carrying the baby, like, oh, what the fuck? And he's having this call, and we need to cut to her, and he goes outside the house, and he's the big man going to the job interview. I have all I need right here. Taps into the house, American flag behind him, sunset, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, how obvious can you get? And it's just awful. And then by the end, when they're on the chase sequence, his wives call him, hey baby, how'd the interview went? It went great, ha ha ha, is there a smile? He's clearly on a fucking chase. How do you believe
that moment
shit?
was calm. That moment was chill.
Don't call me. It wasn't calm. She believes that, and I'm like, this is not calm. This is not calm. I'm just laughing at this. It's so ridiculous. And then you have moments with Jake in the hall. There are, obviously comedy.
It was a moment where the ambulance was stuck in traffic, and they had time.
Of course. Yeah.
Had a little time.
Nah.
And I just love these films where the sick person, because of the heist, gets a lot of money, but it's like cash. So what? She's gonna put that in the bank, and no questions are going to be asked.
Yeah. Just spend it smartly. Little things.
Clearly, this is not going to work. You need to launder that money. Go get a criminal to do that for you.
Yeah.
Because no way that bank is gonna. Oh yeah. You're that poor family who just got $1 million. That makes sense.
Yeah. But anyway, what's your opinion on all of it? What do you think of all of this? Do you agree?
I mean, I love the fact that Michael Bay quotes his own film.
That was great.
He mentions The Rock. Yeah. Just, okay, that's brilliant. Genius.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't take the film that serious. I mean, all the criticisms Tomás said are valid and true. Yes. And the film is stupid a lot of times, but I don't know, I accept all of it because it's not like the film is aiming for anything that much higher than what it is, which is a straight action film chase in an ambulance in a contained space, and that it does it really well, I think. And from the beginning until the end, I think the setup functions really well. And then the way it develops functions really well. I just thought it was a really well-made action film. Yeah, emotionally, it's it is what it is. It's not like I'm crying watching it, but I like the characters. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. He's really funny, and the character really is kind of an idiot.
There's a line he says that, well, I would like not have herpes, but we don't get what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you put the fucking, a dying woman in the baby. It's easy to connect. I know it's a cheap way, but I like the guy. He's doing it for his wife and his baby. I'm not gonna hate on him.
That's just not the point for me. Just because it's an action film doesn't mean it can't be well done on the part of the drama and the motivation. Fair enough, you see a woman with a baby, you instantly connect, fine. But his mise-en-scène around these scenes is god-awful, in my opinion. It's
not all of them. In that first scene,
so.
Yeah.
In that first scene, the scene
the
when
rest
he
of
the brother...
You say he has no intent. He has intention. His intentions, are debatable whether they're good or not.
Sure, he has intentions. That's true. But he has intentions in...
He's a very unthoughtful filmer. He thinks about not the shots in themselves as meaning, but as rhythm and intensity and what they achieve with each other in terms of creating that high intensity octane that you were talking about.
Fair enough. But I think
it's not pure cinema, but it works in the aims of the film, I think. And as far as his films go, there's a lot of them that I can't watch.
In terms of comparison, I think I can more easily watch this film than watch a Transformers movie. But the thing is, okay, fair enough. I see what you're getting at. He's clearly more of a person of the connection between the dots, and even because he's always, cutting at such a fast pace. And what he wants, I think, is the end result of the scene, to feel like that heartwarming sunset and the family and whatnot. But to me, it's very crippling on the movie. On the movie's protagonist, or me believing him, or me connecting with him. I just don't like it, because there are films of this nature that are far more greater, and they're action films, and they have the wife and the baby. They have all those elements, but they do it greatly, or they do it interestingly, and they do it with high craft, and to understand what these moments mean. You have other movies that are high octane action, with sound effects coming to the beat, and the camera doing weird stuff that enhances the experience of the dynamic of the action, of punching someone, of hitting someone, like Baby Driver, Mad Max Fury Road, the John Wick movies. Okay, each of them with various degrees, but Baby Driver they're not the same movie as Michael Bay.
I prefer this film to Baby Driver, for example.
I could more easily watch Baby Driver, but okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think Baby Driver is a bit too much of itself.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll keep naming names, because I
Mad
think
Max,
they are in this style of the
next week. Baby Driver on Royale.
Man or Tony Scott.
The Matrix, Kingsman.
Kingsman. No.
Yeah, to me, Kingsman is a fun film, and it does it right.
All right.
In terms of the camera.
But yeah, sure.
It totally hits the points, and it hits the high octane action.
Different tastes.
Beautiful
different
way.
Tastes. But I think,
of course, this will warrant
Kingsman,
different tastes.
I could do without Kingsman. Ambulance, I need it in my life.
I don't. And yeah, Matrix, Heat. I'm not saying that Heat is the same as these other films, or Baby Driver, or Kingsman. I'm not saying that. But, this, of course, his long list of films are various degrees of films that are compartmentalized in this style of high octane actions that cuts the beat of sound effects, and has a different taste to your normal action film like The Expendables with Sylvester Stallone. It's not the same thing. It's not the same style. And to me, those, there's just the other directors out there that are much more interesting and don't tire me. The beginning is very tiresome for me. And then, yeah.
No, I'm just gonna say that despite everything, you still get the sense of a director behind this film. And when you watch films like The Expendables, it's like there's
of course,
who's the director?
It's
just it's bland. It's action.
Sure.
It's explosions, but you don't really get a sense of a hand, of an American poet hand there. And you do get it that with Michael Bay.
So what? Like, it works when you get to the action, but it doesn't work. It's really
I think it works for most of it. I don't know what you mean. When is the action? When does the action start?
When the chase sequence starts. When they get on the ambulance and they get on.
That's 45 minutes in. I think it starts when they start robbing the bank.
Even then, for me, he's doing things that are just
that are intense because it's action.
I think one of the things he could have improved is it's like this spatial awareness of the bank scene, where we kind of get lost in where the characters are going and everything that is happening. I think you should have blocked a little better, and I don't know, at least for me it was a little confusing to understand where everyone was going and the space itself. Something that you could have...
Yeah, of course, because he kind of... It's, to me, this is the problem. In these calmer scenes where characters are stationary or just walking, he just finds ways to get the camera rolling in weird ways, having these swooping gestures. Every camera movement, every twist and turn is different, but I don't see what motivated this shot, what motivated this thing. When it comes to the action, it flows. In the calmer scenes, it doesn't flow. Even in the bank, there are things happening in the bank that it puts me off. It knocks me off. I don't see why. And I get your argument of he doesn't see every shot as a unit of meaning, but perhaps the whole. Fair enough. But to me personally, I guess it's a question of personally, it hinders for me. It's really, I can't help but feeling how there are other movies that within the style or of action movie that this is that I find more interesting. I
mean, of course, if you go analyze the shot itself, there are plenty of shots that are just uninteresting, perhaps.
Could be longer, a lot of them, I felt. Like some of the drone shots, even during the chase scene, like they're so unique and as of right now when they're seen in films, in action films, that I wanted to see them more, but he just cuts away from them a lot of time.
Yeah, I agree. I think he could have done a couple of tracking shots with drones. I mean, make the
that
scenes longer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like he's just uses drones like to make an opposite movement of the scene and sort of catch the characters in reverse. And that's why I think sometimes Tomás feels like when he cuts to scenes without drones, like it's very jarring, because you meet them against the action, and then when you come back, it's something that goes along with the action. And I do agree. I think that sometimes the drones are coming out of nowhere just to make a bold movement
because he's more interested in the dynamics, in the movement itself, than he is in the resulting effect of the shot.
It's not always, but I think
it's not always.
Just wait for his next film and you'll see better drone use.
You'll see better.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think he referred to like tongue in cheek, not really. He said it's a study in tension. It's like, sure.
Study in what?
Tension, as in tension.
Tension.
Yeah, tension. Right. Which is like, I mean, that's a better description than like an emotional film, because it's not an emotional film. It's more of a film about upping the ante, always like something more intense happening. And it's what Tomás doesn't like. He doesn't like that when the two guys are talking about doing the job, that the camera is moving around them and cutting, like jump cutting between them. Jake Gyllenhaal,
but that's
the brother.
Even Nolan does that.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it worked. He's always keeping that tension that he wants to keep through the whole film, which is, fair enough. I don't mind. It's sort of like similar to what we talked about in Oppenheimer, actually. I don't mind the constant acceleration of the film here, because it's different degrees of acceleration, but it's always accelerated. I think the calmer moments are calmer in a way that makes sense in the Michael Bay universe. Like, it's not the insanity of a chase scene, but there's still those Dutch angles, the jump cutting. It's a style that can be annoying, and for me, it's been annoying in the past, but here it didn't bother me.
I think it overall has enough elements to keep you engaged, and I think the performances are interesting and funny as well, and just the premise is so outlandish that it kind of keeps you motivated to see. I mean, just the sort of thing only a genius like Bay would do. That's pretty much how you summarize it.
Yeah, I enjoy seeing it be pulled off, like this sort of film. It's fun to see. It feels like seeing the film be done, like the development of the film is fun. Like, it's very interesting to see a film like this. I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
And if a film has Jake Gyllenhaal unhinged It's always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that's
one line he says,
really
which is
good.
like, "What are you doing, vampire princess? Sucking more blood?" And just shouts. While his brother Will Sharp is having a conversation with
Ele
Ken.
tá he's driving, but he's just shouting at them in the back.
Yeah.
Like you hear him
What is happening
faintly.
over there?
What? He's like, "Oh, my name is actually Daniel, but people call me Danny." No, I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. To be positive with the man, like I said, I like the chase sequence. There are moments when get particularly interesting. I think he is at his best when he puts a lot of layers under high tension moments. And by a lot of layers, I mean different characters are thinking about different things and wanting for things and are in different places communicating. And they all need to do this one thing. For example, there's a surgery scene, and the whole layers in which it happens, it's they're taking care of this police officer taken down by a bullet inside of a moving ambulance, and they bring on, via video call, a whole team of American surgeons through the country. And there's the cop also communicating with her to try and see if she can communicate with Will, because he's a softer one. So there's this, you start to see these different intentions inside the ambulance of opposing views, or who can ally with whom, in that tight space. And the surgery happening, I will say, I wasn't expecting them to put their hands in the belly of that man, and once they took the spleen, which I don't know how that happens, but once they took the spleen and extract the bullet, and that blood came off, I was like, whoa, I was scared at that moment. Or for example, I think he very expertly, once they get saved by the Latin American kind of allies, gangsters, that side of the family, and to go to their warehouse. And all of a sudden, Bill Sharp gets shot by Cam. And that shot itself had a different quality of slow motion. I gasped like, and I was like, oh my God, he is dying, So I had genuine reactions of worry for the characters at certain points. And I was genuinely surprised. So I give that credit to him, that within the flow of the action sequence, he was capable of surprising me. And as well, for example, another scene that works at that sense of high intention, different layers happening, two characters thinking about another thing, two other characters in another place trying to drive at another thing. And so you have the audience ends up having more information than the characters themselves. Another situation of the kind is when Bill and Danny are at driving the van. They are under this underpass, and there are these snipers in position. They think that the police officer inside the van has gone dead. They try to hit them. There's this moment where it is possible, and Cam, in communication with the officer, manages to tell the FBI officer manages to tell him, no, he's alive. And so everything changes, and there's this sudden moment when Bill, through the skills that he has with his driving, manages to flee the bullets, and that's amazing. I think that was a great moment of fast-paced cutting, jump cuts, and I was gripped to that moment. I was at the edge of my seat. So these were some moments during the chase that he managed to keep things fresh, managed to keep things excited, and to bring on, in this confined space of an ambulance, new moments, and that I was not expecting. And it's interesting that for this character of Danny that we know, he only introduces these Latino allies later in the film. He doesn't try to, impose that on us from the beginning. He leaves that for later. So that comes off as completely new when he manages to pull that off. And we really believe they're going to make it after they kill the cops. And I was surprised that he killed his own brother. I'm a little bit, should I have done that? Should have he not done that? But he manages to pull off some surprises during the chase that are very fresh and interesting. Like I said, the biggest problems I have are with the beginning of the film, where I think it's just, to me, is his inadequacy to do things. And so to do things more contained, more attending to the nuance of drama, and so he stays within what he calls his own style. I think it's inadequacy of doing things a different way. So he gets to his comfort zone of, I'm going to do things like I've learned in my commercial heyday of video clips or whatever before he was, a filmmaker. Or
like that's every director is sort of like that. They do the way that they're comfortable with doing things. I mean, obviously to different degrees. I think if suddenly the beginning was a very camera down on the tripod, just structured, each shot very lasting long, going there and there, you'd be like, did someone else direct this? How is this directed by Michael Bay? Because I really don't feel that. I don't feel like the bank scene demands more containment than it's as. I think
I wouldn't say that the bank scene demands containment per se. That's a little bit different. I would say, I think containment for sure in the very first scene where he's on the phone with that nurse trying to get a surgery for his wife.
But I mean, that scene isn't.
Yeah.
That like scene is not that uncontained in the sense that he has moving camera, but
that.
I mean, come on.
It does have moving camera.
The way he treats
tripod,
music, the way he treats music for that scene, it already feels like I'm reaching the freaking climax of the movie. It's like this swooping, big ass music, loud. It feels like it's the tone of an action scene, and quick cuts, and this sun going in, and he's on the brink of getting something. I need this call, and it's the obvious, to me, it also, there's other layers to this. It's the obvious meanings within the dialogue, cutting to the face of the baby, the face of the wife, witnessing that whole thing. I'm just so fazed by the whole thing. I can't take it. I'm unnerved by it. But
I mean, I agree that it's like a bit of it's a cliche. I mean, obviously, the dying wife or whatever, the guy that needs the money.
His whole characters feel like
you have to ignore that. You have to ignore that.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
It serves the bigger purpose.
I mean, it's not you have to ignore, but it's so ignorable. It's so easy to ignore that part. It's literally in the beginning. It's just like, yeah, okay, I get it. You have to establish the need for money in this very corny way, but then it's done.
The thing is, the thing is, you accept Michael's style. I think that's what it is. You accept Michael's style. You don't mind. You can see what he's going for. And I'm constantly thinking, I've seen this in other movies where I better like the style. And I see this as possible. He did not approach this with the thought, how can I make this interesting? He decided to approach it in the same way he approached an action scene.
To him, this is interesting.
But to him, this is interesting.
And you also have to compare it to his other films, which are much cornier, especially the Transformers films, when it comes to emotional moments and interactions between characters. And especially the teenagers in the Transformers. I mean, you get a sense that it's all very... it's corny. The word is corny. And here, at least, it has some degree of relatability because they're brothers. And even though the emotional premise is a bit cliche, at least it works. And it works as a base for the rest. So, I don't know. It just feels more serious, at least, to me, than if you compare it to the Transformers films, which...
Fair enough. The Transformers movies have a lot of big ass CGI filling up the screen, and then the protagonist is a teenager, so even more. One of the things I noted about this movie is that the characters feel like overgrown teenagers. All of them feel like overgrown teenagers. And then the comic reliefs don't really work as comic reliefs. Like the guy who is the partner paramedic to Cam, my God, how annoying. And then the guy who is the partner cop to the other cop who gets shot, my God, how annoying.
No, but those guys aren't comic reliefs.
Yeah, that's not a comic
I think Jake Gyllenhaal is the biggest comic relief.
The guy who gets shot, the policeman who gets shot and goes into the bank.
That's a comic relief more than the other guy.
No, that's the one I'm saying that he's a comic relief.
You said the partner of the guy who gets shot. I thought you meant...
I think after Jake Gyllenhaal, the biggest comic relief is that sergeant guy with the dog.
Yeah,
it's true, but I don't have a problem with that guy. I have a problem with the paramedic one, who then says that line, "You're the best paramedic in town. You can't get a guy inside in 20 minutes."
That's a classic.
But nobody wants to partner with you.
You have all these amazing stats.
Cuts to her sad face and the music. And I'm like, oh, for fuck.
Yes, I do all those things, but at the end of the day, I'm a humble person.
It's just, I don't, the cuts to the close-ups and the music, it unnerves me so much.
For me, it's very easy to ignore. Like I agree, it's corny, very much.
I guess it's a question of, what's interesting about it is that in this situation, one of the big reasons why you can accompany this film is that you have very good actors selling and believing in this dialogue who belongs to overgrown teenagers. And you
just had to say it again.
I just had to say it again. Just had to phrase it. Yeah, but here what's interesting in contrast to other films is that it's not the actors that are over the top, although they have over the top moments. It's the performance of the camera that is over the top. You know, in Roger Corman's films, you would say that the actors are over the top, but the technique is very well done, and you have a lot to point out on that regard. It's what sustains the film. Here you have the actors sustaining the film, I think, for me, throughout. Otherwise, I don't know.
He has to work out some kinks with the camera. I think sometimes he uses the drone in a kind of a bit of a shallow way, where it just goes through a building and then reverses and goes down.
Yeah.
And he does this a lot with kind of no real reason, because it just seems like a random building to do it on. Sometimes doesn't even relate to the scene itself or where the movement of the characters is. And there, it's where I most agree that he does it for the flashy sense, and less so because it's relevant to the scene. Because sometimes it's not even contained within the scenes. It just goes to a building to do the drone shot.
The high rise.
I
mean, it's the bank, I guess. It's but it's punctuation that's, doesn't quite work.
It's still good looking, but
yeah, exactly. That's why it doesn't bother me too much. Like, I like looking at it. It's okay, but doesn't serve.
And that shot of the drone under the car is amazing.
I have a very primal reaction to it, of aversion. I cannot see it any other way. Like, I look at it and I'm like,
you have to adapt. You have to adapt.
I can scientifically understand your view, fine, but it's just not within my system of taste. I look at it and I'm like, oh, I even say it in Portuguese, Latino. I had those because Jesus Christ. No, I mean, it's not. It doesn't conduce to anything. It doesn't unveil anything. It's just, I can see his thought was, let's make this job because it looks cool and dynamic, yo. I just think of him in that video club.
But sometimes you just want a film that pumps up your adrenaline.
That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse to not make a good film on all corners.
No, but there's a lot of films that aim at pumping up and they're just boring and they don't work and they're annoying. And
that's true.
That's true. Case for me. I think this one is a perfect film to watch, like perfect entertainment. It's not great character work. It's not perfect emotionally, but as you were saying, there are some moments that do work, that you do feel for the characters. I think more because the actors are so likable at points. But as a piece of entertainment, I think it's as good as Michael Bay has done, probably. And for me, it's up there with like the films you were mentioning before, like Baby Driver, Kingsman. I think this one, for me, easily beats those ones. But Heat, for example, this does not compare to any Michael Mann film. Like, not even, it's not a fair compare, because Michael Mann for me is more of, I take him, not to be too condescending with Michael Bay, but I take Michael Mann a little more seriously. His films, like this film, I'm more in the mindset of stupid fun, well-made stupid fun. And I think, again, from that perspective, this is great work. Even if there are some things that he still needs to tune, especially the work with the drones to really bring something out of it that is more special. But as Mike was saying, there's that shot of the police car going above and the drone going under it. I love looking at that, but I wish it was a little longer or a little more like there was more of a choreography to it throughout the film. But I can see that he's developing something that is, can be good for Hollywood to experiment with.
Right.
Yeah. And it was refreshing to see a film without CGI from Michael Bay.
Sure.
Especially considering his last films.
I mean, he must have CGI in some corners, but it's not at the level of Transformers, of course.
It's a film, it's mostly, you can see it's practical in a lot of ways. Yeah. Of course, there's CGI, of course,
Yeah, there's CGI, but it's like details and correcting
like things. Nolan films have CGI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not basing themselves in CGI. Because, you have to take it, considering his last films as well. That's why I'm trying to make parallels, or at least go back to some of his other films, because otherwise it's a good action film, but perhaps not as good, but if you look at his recent films, at least you see some change and some momentum and some trying to do something new with drones.
Yeah,
which
I think
it's a bit like talking about using the IMAX format for close-ups with Oppenheimer. I mean, it's about trying to come up with different ways technically to tell stories, and it's not always perfect, but at least it did something different and original. And it's not a lot of directors out there doing interesting shots with drones.
Fair enough. I think I totally agree on the aspect of the drones, and that it's very interesting the way that he uses them, and that he's, for what can be said, he's breaking, the ways to do filmmaking in Hollywood, at least by the way he uses them, with those sudden curves, at high altitudes and going under vehicles and whatnot. It's very entertaining. I love that shot of the police car going under it. I totally agree. And I think he can still develop and refine it. To me, it's the question of when Nolan picks up IMAX and he uses it for the big screen to create these close-ups, he's right there using it at 100% of efficiency. When he picks up a drone, because he doesn't know what he wants from it, he instantly gets at his first feeling of what he wants to take from the shot and doesn't think about it, because all is boing, he gets there, he does the
shot. It's not fair to compare him with Nolan the same way. It's not fair to compare him with
Nolan. It's just like, what a good director, solid, would do. He would think it through. It doesn't.
But we all agree on those things.
To try it out.
Yes, but we all agree on those things. I mean, all your criticism is valid. I mean, we all.
I think it's just the angle.
Ultimately, we all agree with it.
Yeah.
I think it's just the angle at which you choose to approach this film. You can approach it as, I understand this Michael Bay, I understand what he has done in the past, and I'm in for the fun. And you will have person who will not come at it, from that angle, who just won't resist. Who will just resist his style, that's me, I guess. I have the.
That's you.
And that's all for today, folks. If you'd like to reach out and suggest a film for the next episode, you can find us on the podcast official Instagram and Facebook pages. Feel free to subscribe, share the episode, or simply give us a like. That's how our podcast can grow ever more groovy. And if you're on YouTube and want to see more videos like this, check out this next video right here. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.